Welcome to HOA Karen Expose. Like, comment your story, and subscribe for weekly neighborhood drama. The first time I noticed the envelope, I thought it was a coupon flyer. Bright red letters. Folded neatly. Tucked into the mailbox with surgical precision. I almost tossed it in the trash without looking. But curiosity always wins. I unfolded it. HOA notice of concern. Underneath that, holiday displays must remain tasteful and not distract from the uniform aesthetic of the neighborhood. There was a sticky note stuck to the back. In cursive handwriting, "Your decor is excessive and disturbing. Consider the children." It wasn't signed. But it didn't need to be. We all knew who it came from. Karen. Karen, the self-declared enforcer of all things HOA. Clipboard in hand, phone ready to record, and a glare sharp enough to cut drywall. She'd been in the neighborhood longer than most. Claimed seniority like it was a military rank. And this Halloween, she had decided my fake cobwebs and inflatable pumpkin were too much for her eyes. I laughed at first. Shrugged it off. My skeleton lights and purple fog machine weren't exactly horror movie material. Kids loved them. Parents took photos. It was harmless fun. Besides, Halloween was still 2 weeks away. Surely she was just being herself. That weekend, I added a few more decorations. A giant spider crawling down the roof. Orange fairy lights draped over the bushes. A friendly ghost holding a BOO sign near the walkway. And that's when the second letter came. No envelope this time. Just a printout slipped under my door. Failure to comply may result in formal citation and fine. Same message, same tone. Only now it was underlined. Twice. I checked the HOA handbook. Nothing about Halloween. Nothing about decor before October 31st. Nothing about considering the children. I wasn't breaking any rules. But I was clearly being watched. The next day, I saw her across the street. Karen stood there with her little notebook, jotting something down. When she noticed me watching, she waved. Like we were old friends. Like she hadn't just threatened to fine me over a plastic pumpkin. I waved back with the biggest grin I could manage. Then I went to the store and bought a 12-foot inflatable Grim Reaper. Yes, that was petty. But it felt good. And the neighborhood kids? They loved it. Parents slowed their cars to point. A teenager took a selfie with it and tagged my house on social media. "Best house on the block," he wrote. I printed that post out and taped it to my front door, right next to the HOA notice. For a while, nothing happened. But I knew better. Karen didn't go silent. She recalibrated. That Friday, I got a knock at the door. It was someone from the HOA board, not Karen, but someone she clearly sent. Middle-aged guy. Polite. Uncomfortable. "Hi there. Just wanted to talk about the decorations," he said. Nothing formal. Just some concerns raised by a few neighbors. "A few," I repeated. "Or just one?" He smiled awkwardly. "We just want to make sure everyone feels comfortable." I invited him to step into the yard. Showed him the lights, the fog machine, the animatronics. "Nothing graphic," I said. "No blood. No jump scares. Just seasonal fun." He nodded. "Honestly, I think it's great. My kids love this stuff. Just, maybe keep it quiet at night." "Already do," I replied. He left without leaving a citation. But the battle wasn't over. Not even close. The next morning, I found a plastic skeleton hanging from my mailbox. It wasn't mine. It had a note pinned to its ribcage. "This is what happens to those who mock the rules." I laughed so hard I almost dropped my coffee. Karen had officially gone full Scooby-Doo villain. The irony. She probably thought this was some serious psychological warfare. Meanwhile, I was considering adding it to my porch display. Free prop, right? But I knew it was a message. Not just for me, but for the whole street. So I walked it right over to my neighbor Jenny's place. She's got 2 kids, both under 10, and she'd been adding decorations of her own, modest stuff. A scarecrow, a black cat statue. Nothing wild. I held up the skeleton. She left this for me. Jenny narrowed her eyes. That woman's lost her mind. She's escalating. Jenny nodded. Then so are we. By sundown, she had ordered a fog machine and a 7-foot werewolf from Amazon. I helped her set it up the next day. While we worked, another neighbor walked by. Paul. Retired firefighter, owns 3 muscle cars, rarely gets involved with neighborhood drama. He grinned at the werewolf. She's still bothering people? She left me a skeleton with a threat, I said. Cool, he replied. Guess I'll dig out my old Halloween gear. By the following weekend, something had shifted. The block transformed. One house had a whole cemetery set up in the front yard. Another installed motion sensor witches that cackled when you walked by. Someone even projected spooky silhouettes in their windows. Witches, zombies, the whole vibe. Karen. She watched. You could feel her eyes behind those drawn curtains. Every time someone added a new decoration, she'd step outside, notebook in hand, pretending to water her plants. Or sweep her already spotless driveway. And she always scowled. But the best part. No one cared anymore. Her threats had backfired. The street had become a Halloween attraction. Families from nearby streets started walking over in the evenings to check it out. Kids wore costumes early. Some people brought hot cocoa and camp chairs to sit outside and enjoy the view. We had turned Karen's little war into a block party. But of course, it wasn't over. One night, just after sunset, I caught the flashing of blue lights out my window. 2 police cars parked outside Karen's house. She was on her porch, arms flailing, voice raised. I couldn't hear her, but I saw the pointing. First at me, then down the street. I stepped outside. An officer walked up to me, calm, professional. Evening. You live here? Yes. What's going on? We got a call about excessive noise and dangerous decorations. I raised an eyebrow. Dangerous. He looked past me. Fog machine. Yes. Low volume. Water-based. He nodded. Just doing our due diligence. Mind if I take a quick look? Go for it. I walked with him through the yard. He checked the wiring on the lights, made a note that nothing blocked the sidewalk. The fog was barely ankle-high. This is pretty tame, he said. That's what I've been saying. Karen came marching over. It's a safety hazard. The children could trip. What if someone has asthma? The officer held up a hand. Ma'am, we've checked everything. It's safe. It's within city noise ordinances. There's nothing illegal here. But the rules. Which rules? She paused. Realized she couldn't point to anything enforceable. This used to be a quiet neighborhood, she snapped. The cop nodded. Still seems pretty quiet. Just a lot more festive. And then he walked away. The look on Karen's face? Pure defeat. For the first time since I moved in, she had been publicly shut down. But she wasn't done yet. The next phase of Karen's plan involved paperwork. Lots of it. A week later, envelopes started arriving again. Not just for me, but for every single house that had decorated. Each one had the official HOA letterhead, stapled pages of dense legalese, and bright yellow highlighter streaks over phrases like decorative limitations, community standards, and excessive ornamentation. My neighbor Paul dropped his letter on my porch like it was radioactive. She's filing formal complaints now. Looks like she dug deep into the HOA bylaws, I said, flipping through the packet. Some of this stuff is decades old. Pre-Halloween, pre-decor boom, pre-fun. Jenny came over with her copy too. Same document. Same highlighter. But she added one more twist. She's calling a special HOA meeting. Next Friday. to vote on new rules. She wants a block-wide ban, I said. She wants a dictatorship. This wasn't just about cobwebs anymore. Karen wanted to reset the neighborhood to 1992. Beige houses, silent lawns, and the emotional range of a sponge. We couldn't let that happen. So, we made a plan. The first step was attendance. HOA meetings were usually ghost towns. 5 people, tops. Karen counted on that. But this time, we printed flyers, made calls, sent emails, even put up signs. Save our holiday spirit. Meeting Friday. Word spread fast. The night of the meeting, the community center was packed. People stood against the walls, sat on the floor, even brought folding chairs from home. Karen looked stunned. She stood at the podium, holding her folder like it was a shield. She started reading. Dry language. Ordinances. Obscure quotes from HOA handbooks. But the crowd wasn't buying it. One by one, neighbors stood up and shared stories. Parents talked about how their kids were finally excited about Halloween. Older couples said the decorations reminded them of happier times. Even the quiet folks, like Paul, spoke up. Then I stepped forward. Karen, this isn't just about skeletons and pumpkins. It's about community. About kids laughing and neighbors coming together. No one here is trying to break the rules. We're making memories. You want conformity. We want connection. For a second, she looked like she might respond. But someone in the back shouted, "Let's vote already." And so we did. The new rules she proposed? Rejected. Unanimously. The meeting ended in cheers. Karen stormed out. We thought that was the end. But 2 days later, the fog machine was missing. I found the plug yanked, the cable snapped clean. Whoever took it had used bolt cutters. I knocked on Jenny's door. "Yours okay?" She shook her head. "The werewolf's gone." "Paul." He nodded grimly. Projector smashed. Found glass on the lawn. It wasn't just Karen anymore. She had allies. We didn't talk about it at first. The neighborhood, usually buzzing with chatter, grew quiet. Decorations disappeared overnight. One house at a time. A tombstone here, a ghost there. By Thursday, half the block was dark. Fear does that. But silence doesn't last long on a street like ours. It started with a group chat. Jenny added me. Then Paul. Then 10 more neighbors. Screens lit up with angry texts, photos of broken props, doorbell cam footage. One clip caught a blurry figure in a hoodie yanking a skeleton off a lawn and sprinting away into the dark. It wasn't Karen. She moved like she was balancing a teacup on her head. This was someone younger. Faster. Her recruits. We had a choice. Let them scare us back into beige conformity, or respond. We chose the second option. Paul was the first to act. The next morning, he parked one of his vintage muscle cars, bright orange with black flames, right on his lawn, surrounded by headless mannequins and a plastic coffin. At night, he lit it with red floodlights. Jenny followed. She replaced a stolen werewolf with 2 scarecrows made from old clothes and pool noodles. One wore a hoodie. "I call it Karen's henchman," she said, grinning. I went bigger. Way bigger. With Paul's help, I mounted a second-hand projector to my garage. Every night, it cast animated shadows onto my house. Witches flying, zombies crawling, lightning flashing. I found a second fog machine on Craigslist and chained it to a post. This time, with a hidden camera facing the street. We weren't going to be intimidated. And it worked. The vibe returned. Even better, a family new to the neighborhood joined in. The dad set up a graveyard scene, complete with sound effects and skeletons rising from the ground. The kids dressed up and handed out flyers for a Halloween walk-through night. It felt like we were winning again. Until the sirens came back. Another night. Another complaint. This time, the cops didn't even knock. They parked, observed, and left. But their presence gave Karen ammunition. She started going door to door, clipboard in hand, her voice loud and dramatic. "The police are responding to safety concerns," she told one neighbor. "If someone gets hurt, the HOA will be liable," she warned another. She didn't get far. Most doors didn't open. One finally did, Paul's. I watched from across the street. She talked for about 5 minutes. He didn't say a word, just stared at her, arms crossed. When she finished, he smiled, then walked inside without responding. 2 minutes later, his speakers blasted Monster Mash, loud enough to shake his lawn inflatables. That's when I knew we weren't just fighting back. We were having fun doing it. But Karen wasn't done. Later that week, the emails started. Screenshots from our group chat. Names. Dates. Comments. She had someone inside. A mole. It hit us like a cold wind through an open window. At first, we thought it was a glitch. Jenny sent a message to the group. "Did someone post this?" Attached was a screenshot of our chat, one where we joked about Karen's plastic dictatorship. Nothing mean, just exasperated humor. But there it was, forwarded to her inbox from an anonymous Gmail account. 2 hours later, Paul got an email, too. Then me. All the same format. No names, no threats. Just our own words staring back at us. It wasn't much, but it was enough to make us uneasy. There was a leak. The group chat we'd built to protect our sanity had a hole, and someone on the inside was feeding Karen. We paused for a day. Nobody wanted to post. Nobody wanted to say the wrong thing. The paranoia seeped in quick. Jenny messaged me separately. "What if it's Maya?" I frowned. Maya was new to the group. Friendly. Quiet. She didn't decorate, but she liked all the posts and commented with encouragement. "I doubt it," I replied. "She's got 2 toddlers. She's probably just tired." Still, the trust was cracked. Then Paul had an idea. "Let's test them." We created a second chat. Added only 6 of us. Left out 3 others, including Maya. Then we posted fake info. Said we were planning a secret Halloween gathering. Big enough to annoy Karen, but not real enough to risk anything. 2 days later, we heard about it, from Karen herself. She sent a neighborhood-wide email warning about an unlicensed public event. Quoted a city ordinance. Attached a map with our street circled in red. But there was a problem. We'd added a twist to the bait. In the fake chat, we said the event would start at 8:07 p.m., a weirdly specific time, just to see if it would show up. It did. Karen's email said, "A few residents are attempting to host an unsanctioned Halloween gathering on Friday at approximately 8:07 p.m. Bingo. Now we knew. And now it was war. That Friday, we hosted a real event. Not a party, a potluck. We called it Neighborhood Unity Night. No decorations. No music. Just food, folding chairs, and about 30 people on one front lawn. Everyone brought something. Crock pots. Casseroles. Cookies. Karen's house was dark as a cave across the street. Then Maya showed up, holding 2 trays of brownies. We watched her walk toward us, slowly, nervously. Jenny stiffened. Paul crossed his arms. Maya set the brownies down, looked around, and said, "So, I heard someone thinks I'm the mole." Silence. "I'm not," she said. "But I think I know who is." She pulled out her phone, opened an app, and showed us a screen recording. It was her Ring cam footage, from earlier that week. Karen's niece, Lisa, who lived with her, standing on the porch talking on the phone. "She's been using my guest Wi-Fi," Maya said. "And she's in your group chat, right?" We all stared. Lisa. She'd barely posted. Just reacted to others' messages. A few laughing emojis. A nice setup here and there. The next day, We quietly removed her from the group. Then we built a new one. This time, invite only. No more leaks. No more doubts. We were done playing defense. Now, we were going on offense. Halloween was just 5 days away. And it was go time. No more fear. No more holding back. We had the support. We had the momentum. And more importantly, we had unity. Karen may have had a rulebook, a clipboard, and a mole, but we had something far more dangerous. Imagination and an internet connection. Paul pitched the idea. What if we give her exactly what she wants? Just not in the way she expects. It was genius. We weren't going to fight the HOA rules. We were going to follow them, down to the letter, but in the most absurd, technical, and legally untouchable way possible. So the planning began. Jenny found the clause in the HOA manual that allowed seasonal window art, as long as it was non-permanent and non-obstructive. So she painted a giant skeleton doing the floss dance across her living room window in washable white paint. Paul's teenage nephew created a neighborhood constitution and posted it to a bulletin board we mounted at the entrance of the street. It had completely made up articles like, Section 4, all residents have the right to glow-in-the-dark lawn gnomes during any moon phase. Nobody could stop us because, well, it wasn't official. But the masterpiece? That was mine. Using the same projector from before, I created a series of Halloween safety PSAs. But not just any PSAs, these were Karen-themed. Animated clips showing cartoon characters violating Karen's code, followed by over-the-top consequences. One featured a skeleton hanging a plastic bat on his porch. A cartoon Karen storms out and yells, "Not beige enough." The skeleton paints the bat beige. Lightning strikes. Fade to black. Another clip showed a ghost tripping on a fog machine cord, only to be caught by a zombie lifeguard and reminded to decorate responsibly. We played them on loop every evening on the side of my house. Families brought lawn chairs just to sit and watch. People loved it. Karen did not. She tried everything. She called the city again. Nothing. She filed another round of formal HOA complaints. Denied. She even tried to stand in the street during one of the video nights with a flashlight, waving it at the screen. Paul recorded her and posted it to the new neighborhood Facebook group. Captioned it, Live Theater Performance, Karen vs. Halloween, Act 3. It went semi-viral. The next day, his cousin in Michigan sent him a screenshot of it on Instagram. Karen was becoming famous. But then came her last card. She printed flyers. Black and white. Full of scary-looking font and twisted versions of the HOA rules. She handed them out door to door, talking fast, telling people they could be sued if a kid tripped on their inflatable or if a light bulb popped and scared someone. She stood on my lawn, waving one at me while I drank my coffee. "This is your last chance. Shut it down." I looked at her. Calm. Even smiling. "I've got a better idea." That night, we turned it up to 11. Jenny put out a blow-up Grim Reaper that waved every time someone walked by. Paul mounted red strobe lights on his roof. The new family down the street? They built a fake haunted tunnel using PVC pipe and trash bags. It was glorious. And I added one final touch to my lawn. A 6-foot-tall cardboard cutout of Karen, dressed in a vampire cape, holding a clipboard. Underneath it said, "Beware, the Countess of Compliance." People loved it. Took selfies. Even left candy offerings at its feet. It was the moment the whole block felt it. Not fear, not stress. Victory. The neighborhood had flipped. Karen had become a character. A cartoon. A costume. Kids were literally dressing as her. And there wasn't a thing she could do about it. By the morning of Halloween, it felt like a small-town festival had bloomed overnight. Lawn after lawn was alive with motion. Flickering lights, dancing inflatables, sound effects echoing down the block. Kids were already out with parents in tow, rehearsing their trick-or-treat routes like it was a stage play. People brought their decorations out earlier than usual just to make the day feel longer. Even the quiet houses, the ones that hadn't picked a side, put up something. A pumpkin on the porch. A ghost cutout in the window. Solidarity. There was only one house on the entire street that stayed dark and silent. Karen's. Blinds closed. Porch light off. No bowl of candy. No cobwebs. Just the faint glow of her TV inside, and the constant twitch of the curtain as she peeked through. We had expected her to make one last move, but we never imagined what came next. Around 5:45 p.m., just before the big wave of trick-or-treaters usually arrived, 2 unmarked city vehicles pulled up. From them stepped 3 people, 1 in a business suit, 2 in city utilities jackets. We paused. People froze mid-decoration. Paul whispered. She called the city again? It looked serious. The suited woman held a clipboard and a large envelope. They walked up Karen's driveway and rang her bell. And then, the yelling began. Not from us. From her. We couldn't hear every word, but it was loud enough to catch the tone. Shocked, defensive, desperate. Karen gestured wildly. She pointed at my house. At Jenny's. At the decorations. But the city workers? They didn't even turn their heads. They were here for her. Turns out, someone, possibly from the neighborhood Facebook group, had filed a formal complaint about Karen harassing residents, issuing false legal threats, and violating public nuisance ordinances by misusing HOA authority. The woman with the clipboard was from the city's mediation department. The envelope was a cease-and-desist order. Not against us. Against Karen. People on the sidewalk clapped. Literally clapped. She slammed her door. 5 minutes later, her porch light flicked on. Then off again. Then on. And then she gave up and closed the blinds completely. We were too busy laughing to care. Trick-or-treating began. Kids poured onto the sidewalks in a flood of color and energy. Superheroes, vampires, tiny Karen impersonators with fake clipboards. It was chaos, joy, noise, candy. One toddler waddled around in a pumpkin suit so big he had to be rolled down a driveway. It was magic. At one point, I saw Maya standing near her porch, watching the whole thing unfold with a big cup of cider and a content smile. I walked over. Not bad for a neighborhood almost turned into a retirement complex. She laughed. Not bad at all. Think she's gone for good? Maya shrugged. People like her don't disappear. But after tonight, she might think twice. We looked up the block. A fog machine puffed out little bursts of mist. A projection of dancing skeletons played on a garage. Jenny's scarecrows were now lit with red underlights that made them look like Halloween rock stars. Then Paul came down the sidewalk, carrying his Bluetooth speaker. Encore time, he asked. I grinned. What's the track? He hit play. Thriller. Of course. The whole block got into it. Parents. Kids. Even the dog in a taco costume started barking to the beat. And somewhere behind her curtains, Karen was probably stewing in silence, wondering how it had all slipped so far from her grasp. The next morning, the street looked like a post-party battlefield in the best way possible. Candy wrappers tumbled like confetti in the breeze. Plastic eyeballs had escaped into gutters. Someone's inflatable Frankenstein had deflated halfway and now looked like it was napping in a ditch. The sidewalk chalk from the kids still read things like, Karen-free zone, and scary decorations allowed. It was glorious. And weirdly quiet. No HOA emails. No threats. Just the rustle of brooms as people started sweeping up. That's when something unexpected happened. Karen's garage door opened. Slowly. Like a horror movie, but slower. Everyone glanced up. And there she was. Hair tied back. Tracksuit on. No clipboard in hand. Just a long black trash bag dragging behind her. She was cleaning up leaves. Quietly. No yelling. No pacing the perimeter of other people's yards. Just cleaning. Jenny leaned over her fence and whispered, "Is this a trap?" Paul snorted. "If she offers us lemonade, I'm out." We watched for a while, but nothing weird happened. Karen filled one bag, then another. She took them inside, closed her garage. That was it. For once, she wasn't the star of the morning drama. But the neighborhood wasn't about to forgive and forget. The damage was done. The threat of fines. The insults. The stress. The constant, suffocating control. That didn't vanish just because she suddenly remembered how to act like a neighbor. Later that afternoon, an email landed in our inboxes. Not from Karen. From the HOA board president. Apparently, our chaos had reached higher levels than we thought. The city report had triggered a formal review. The board had voted. Karen was being removed as HOA compliance chair effective immediately. Her access to the email account? Revoked. Her ability to issue warnings? Suspended. And best of all, she was required to attend a community communication training series if she wanted to stay on the board at all. People were stunned. Not just because it worked, but because we had done it. The neighborhood had finally stood up, together, and pushed back. It wasn't about decorations or candy or inflatable witches. It was about ownership. Of our homes. Our space. Our peace. That night, we all sat out front again. Not for any event. No party. Just because we could. Lawn chairs. Cool drinks. Kids playing in the driveway. No projector. No music. Just regular life, the kind Karen used to try and squash. And then something surreal happened. She walked by. Karen. Hoodie up. No eye contact. She didn't speak. But she waved. Just a little flick of the hand. Awkward. Forced. But a wave. No one waved back. And that silence said more than words ever could. A week passed. No new rules. No surprise letters. No threats about beige paint or lawn gnomes. It was weird. In a good way. People kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, but it never did. The tension that used to buzz under every neighborly smile just faded. Slowly. Like smoke after a fire. Jenny and I talked about it during one of our evening porch sessions. "Is this what peace feels like?" she asked, sipping her tea. I laughed. "It's suspicious, right? Like maybe Karen's just charging up for some final boss-level drama." But that day never came. Instead, something else started happening. People began making real changes. Small, but noticeable. The new couple down the block painted their door turquoise. Not HOA-approved beige. Not boring off-white. Turquoise. Bright, happy, unapologetic. Someone else put a fairy garden on the edge of their walkway. Solar lights. Tiny mushrooms. A little sign that read, "Whimsy lives here." And no one took it down. No citations showed up. No complaints were filed. For the first time in a long time, people were actually enjoying their homes without fear of consequences. Even Maya started planning a mural for her side fence, something bright and floral to cover the gray wash she'd been forced to apply 2 years ago. She called it healing with paint. And the best part. New connections started forming. The kind that hadn't existed before, when everyone lived in invisible fear of that single clipboard and its carrier. There were block-wide chats now. Shared Amazon carts for decorations. People lending tools, offering driveway space, bringing in each other's trash bins. One Saturday, Paul organized a backyard movie night. We hung a sheet between 2 trees. Played an old monster movie on a borrowed projector. 30 people showed up. Some brought popcorn, some just brought chairs. Kids sat on blankets, wrapped in hoodies, laughing in the dark under the glow of string lights. I looked around and realized something. Karen hadn't killed this neighborhood. She'd sparked a revolution. Not the kind with pitchforks and torches, the kind with inflatable pumpkins and community Facebook groups. She tried to control us. We answered with creativity. She pushed for silence. We responded with laughter. And now, she was still here, yes. But smaller. Quieter. No longer the force she once was. More like a leftover character from a story we all knew too well. People still spoke about her, but only in past tense. Remember when she tried to fine you for that plastic owl? Didn't she once report a snowman as a safety hazard? The legend lived on, but the fear didn't. And slowly, our street started to feel like something rare. Something you didn't see often anymore. A neighborhood. One with personality, color, flaws, humor, and best of all, freedom. 2 months later, a letter showed up in everyone's mailbox. This time, it wasn't threatening. It wasn't typed in bold red letters or stuffed with citations. It was handwritten, signed by the HOA board. And it started like this. To our neighbors, thank you for reminding us what a neighborhood can be. People weren't sure how to take it at first. Was it sarcasm? A trap? But it wasn't. It was real. The board had met, without Karen's input, and voted to revise several outdated restrictions. They wanted feedback, opinions, ideas. They were hosting an open forum, potluck style. No speeches. Just snacks and conversation. People showed up. A lot of people. It felt surreal. Not just being listened to, but invited. The mood was cautious but warm. Kids played in the rec hall while adults sat on folding chairs and offered suggestions. One guy stood up and said, "Can we just never do the beige paint rule again?" Laughter. Even the board smiled. Karen didn't attend. She sent in a written note instead. Short. No apology. Just a sentence or two about personal boundaries and stepping back for health reasons. No one missed her. Not anymore. In her absence, the neighborhood bloomed. More murals appeared. Driveways got repaved in bold patterns. Bird feeders were hung. Gnomes multiplied like rabbits. Maya finished her fence mural, a riot of colors, wildflowers, and a tiny cat wearing sunglasses, hidden in the corner. She said it represented rebellion. Someone turned a dead patch of grass at the end of the street into a community garden. No one asked permission. They just started planting. No one stopped them. No one filed a report. And the weirdest part, everything still worked. Mail got delivered. Trash picked up. Kids got on their buses. The world didn't fall apart without Karen micromanaging every detail. It got better. I sat on my porch one evening, warm tea, legs up, wrapped in a hoodie, and watched 2 neighbors I barely knew help each other string lights across a tree. No agenda. No enforcement. Just kindness. It made me think about how close we'd all been to letting one voice define the whole community. How fear had made us small, and how creativity brought us back. This wasn't just a Halloween victory. It was a reminder that a neighborhood isn't made of fences or rules or shade-tolerant grass. It's made of people. Flawed. Funny. Loud. Quiet. Messy. And somehow in all that mess, we'd found something worth keeping. Something Karen would never understand. But we did. And now, we protect it. Not with rules. With presence. With laughter. With inflatable pumpkins and painted fences and music after dark. With a little color, a little rebellion, and a whole lot of community.